Hey everyone, my name is Solomon Thomas. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, my goal is to become a clinical psychologist, and the purpose of making these YouTube videos are twofold. One, I'm trying to practice articulating my thoughts and clarifying my beliefs on some of these ideas and theories that I'm engaging with. And the second reason is that I hope that I can present these ideas in such a way that people find compelling or at least useful and interesting. So in this video, I wanted to talk about what it means to have a victim mindset and why that's detrimental to developing a personality. So when I think of someone who sees the world through a lens of a victim mentality, I think of someone who externalizes all blame and believes that they play no causal role in the outcomes of their lives, particularly when it comes to negative outcomes. So if someone is studying for a test in undergrad and they get a failing grade, they are less likely to learn and adapt and change their study habits because they are more likely to say, well, the teacher's out to get me, or that test was unfair, or they will list off many excuses for why they didn't get the grade they think they deserved. So someone who has this victim mentality and fails to take responsibility for their causal roles in their outcomes, they're unable to learn and adapt, because part of the first step of trying to figure out how to sort out your life and how to get that next job or get that promotion or how to develop any skill, it requires your willingness to list out what you've done or what you haven't done that led to the outcome. And that's responsibility. Now, the second step is having the humility to make the sacrifice and actually engage with learning. When you're trying to, say, study for a test and you're trying to develop good study habits, first, you have to acknowledge what your current study habits are and believe that they play a role in the grade that you're going to get. And then second, you have to be willing to get rid of those maladaptive study habits or inefficient study habits so that way you can replace them with new ones. It's the same thing with learning any abstract theory. You look at the world one way and you have your theory, say, of personality, and then you read this book, you come across Carl Jung or Freud, and you have to build the space in your mind, in your being, to allow new knowledge to come forward. And oftentimes you're going to run into new knowledge that's conflicting with your old knowledge. And again, you have to have this humility to give up some of your a priori knowledge that you believe is insufficient, so that way you can either synthesize what's left with what is new or completely replace your old knowledge with what's new. So someone who has a victim mentality will struggle with learning and adapting because they will be less likely to take accountability and take responsibility. And then on top of that, this lack of humility will also stifle their ability to sacrifice what they need to give up so that way they can make room for what's better. Now, when I think of personality development, I primarily think of an optimal pattern of adaptation, the capacity to learn and to develop yourself across multiple domains and contexts, whether that's socially, whether that's physically, whether that's in your job, what have you. So in my mind, having a victim mentality is pretty much diametrically opposed to pursuing optimal personality development. I think a better mode of attention to bring to bear on your life is one of adopting responsibility. When a problem faces you, list out all of the reasons that went into the generation of the problem, or list out all of the possible causes that you can, that relate to the negative outcome that you received. And then you can also be reasonable about this, and you can be intelligent. You can say, okay, I failed this test. I can think of 6 reasons that all factored into me getting this grade. There's my study habits, there's my sleep that I got the night before, there's the difficulty of the topic, there's the way that the professor creates the test, there's the environment of the test today. Let's just say 5 for now. 5 factors. And some of those are not in your control, and that's fine. You can acknowledge that, but some of those are in your control. And to the degree that you pay more attention to that which you can control, that is adopting more of a mindset that's predicated on responsibility. And the more that you focus on those things that you can't control, particularly instead of focusing on those things that are in your control, you're adopting more of a victim mindset where you have a lack of accountability, a lack of responsibility, and a lack of agency. And also, in my mind, that makes for a cynical and nihilistic view on the world, because if you can't control anything, because you're not responsible for anything, then all that's left is the randomness that might cause your life to be better, or more than likely, the randomness that will lead your life to be filled with more unnecessary suffering. And so, at the same time, we can steelman the argument for having a victim mindset. Learning is hard. You do have to sacrifice. You do have to be okay with being wrong. You have to be okay with being embarrassed sometimes, particularly when it comes to intimate relationships. You are going to be dealing with this other person that ideally you love and she loves you, and you're going to have to negotiate, and you're going to have to put forth your arguments about how you want things to be set up and how you think the relationship should go, and she's going to do the same. But you have to acknowledge that both of you could be wrong, and there will be times where you are completely wrong and you just argued for 3 hours from a position that is incorrect and inaccurate. And you have to be able to let that pride go and let that arrogance go. And people don't like to do that because it is embarrassing, and no one likes to be wrong. And I would say what's worse than the social embarrassment of being wrong and the blow to your pride that you hit when you figure out your theory of the world or your paradigm of how to develop in this one domain is wrong. What's worse than that embarrassment and that blow to your pride is blind ignorance that creates more unnecessary suffering for you and for those people around you for the long term. So my argument in this video is essentially this. A major part of personality development requires the acknowledgement of your causal role in your life and in the life of other people. And it also requires the humility to sacrifice suboptimal modes of being in order to make room for better ways of looking at the world and better ways of acting. And that can be painful. It likely will be painful. But embodying the process of learning and development and adaptation is better than staying in a rigid state of arrogance, hubris, and blind ignorance where there is no learning, there is no flexibility, there is no adaptation, while the environment and other people around you are changing, you're staying the same. And that doesn't make for a good leader, that doesn't make for a good boss, that doesn't make for a good coworker. It doesn't make for an optimal mode of being when it comes to trying to develop yourself in the various domains of your life that you're interested in. So while the victim mentality is appealing because you get to avoid different forms of suffering and embarrassment and pain that are required often when it comes to learning, over the long run, and in the context of trying to make a better life for yourself and for other people around you, it's better to adopt a mindset of responsibility and humble sacrifice of those old ways of being and those bad habits so that you can embody the optimal pattern of adaptation that can make your life better and can help make the lives of those people around you better. So, gonna end the video there. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.